Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie. I'm the lead creator and creative director at Parable Games. This is going to be our first Sisterhood stream where we're going to be digging into the Quickstart, talking a little bit about what actually inspired the game, and kind of some things to be looking forward to in the near future. Yeah, so without further ado, I guess some of you are thinking about what actually is Sisterhood. So, these are our fancy new printed quick starts, which I'll be talking a little bit more about later. But Sisterhood is about a clandestine order of nuns fighting back against the apocalypse. So if you want to gather together your friends, play hardened wizards, nuns, punching demons in the teeth, fighting rogue angels, and the horsemen of the apocalypse, and try and save the world, then this game definitely may be for you. So you will be playing as nuns, only as nuns is the whole vibe. It's if you're on the nun train, then this is definitely going to be something that you're going to enjoy. Why should you play Sisterhood? Kind of first up is, for me, it scratches, as a designer, in terms of like how I've approached it, a very particular itch for something that's pulpy, a bit silly, quite high action, and just kind of a little bit zany, but also kind of getting some of that darkness, getting some of that fun, fast-paced action in there. As I'm going to talk about like inspirations and kind of like where the game spawned from on this stream as well. But you'll see kind of the different influences of where it's come is for giving us kind of that nice, fast-paced, pulpy action gameplay. Now, before we get started properly, I'm going to address that we do have another little guest with us today because he's currently pawing at my foot. Otto, come here. Come here. He does not want to come here, but he desperately wants to play. Go up there. Go on. Go on. We'll see if Otto wants to come out later. But he is the true little demon of this thing, but he will not be being fought by any nuns. He is my brother and business partner's rescue dog, who is lovely, but currently there he is in the background trying to tear apart his toy. So Otto will be featuring in the background of the stream, causing chaos and potentially trying to play with me at various different points. So apologies if that interrupts. I am the de facto dog sitter. So in terms of where did Sisterhood come from? So for me, I have a fascination with nuns as characters, not in like a kind of weird way, but for those people and talking to other people's experience, if anyone who's actually kind of met a nun or talked to a nun, is they're very, very unique characters. They're very interesting people and aren't as kind of demure, devout, and kind of calm as you would expect. Like, they don't have a lot of personality, and that's something that's always fascinated me in media, but also kind of in real life. And I think like kind of the idea of playing as nuns in particular, especially kick-ass nuns, is I have this interest in those who seem unassuming, doing and being capable of doing the unexpected. And I think nuns are possibly the perfect characters in order to be able to explore that as a theme. For me, actually, kind of where one of the big inspirations for Sisterhood came was from experiences I had kind of in my childhood. Nothing dodgy, do not worry. It was I used to do a local paper round around Derby, and one of the places that I used to deliver to was a convent. And it was run by a very friendly group of ladies. But I have a very distinct memory of one time their postal box at the front was full, and to knock on the door in order to give them their papers, because they had kind of various different papers for each of the sisters that were there. And I have a distinct remember of the door being opened by a lovely, friendly old nun, but then behind her was somebody scrubbing, another nun scrubbing the floor, swearing to herself, a nun leaning out of the back porch window having a cigarette, and someone doing the crossword. And it was this kind of depth of view of seeing these little snapshots of these people in their lives, and that they kind of were very different, I think, from how sometimes nuns are portrayed. Kind of always kind of got my story gears turning back then. Now I can just hear a little guy nibbling. What have you found? You found a little plastic thing. Sorry, Otto. What's this? Do you want to actually play with your toy? No. Okay. He is piece by piece destroying my office slowly because he's very small and likes to hide behind me. Go on. Can we capture you? Come here. Just so for the stream, this is Otto. This is the true demon. We love you, Otto. You're going to behave yourself. Let's just have you sit here for a minute to calm you down. Good boy. There we are. So yeah, so for me, that was a place like where the Sisterhood kind of has its foundations. In terms of where little demon, right? Go over here. There you go. Where the Sisterhood had its foundations, kind of is in that fascination there, but there's also other areas. Obviously, that was like kind of back from when I was a teenager, but there's been a huge spike as well in what I've been called like nun media or like nun representation in media. I mean, quite the most obviously the Nun kind of series from Blumhouse is one that's kind of spiked in, but we've also seen Warrior Nun, you've seen The First Omen, Immaculate. There's a lot of, as well as a load of indie films as well that aren't being talked about as much, and there seems to be like this palpable fascination with nuns and the characters that they can be, of breaking out of the trend of how they're normally viewed in society. And that is something that really fascinates me, as seeing that as a trend in media is something to kind of explore a bit further, and you know, slip in some knuckle dusters, shotguns, and some pulpy Evil Dead style violence in there too, because I can't help myself. So one of the other areas as well was actually doing research for another project, Shiver Classified, and kind of reading around the 1950s post-war era, the 1950s, and some factoids about Catholicism were kind of coming up, and I've been percolating about this, as we kind of affectionately called it until we had the title Sisterhood, the Nun RPG, with imparable games between all of us. I was kind of reading about this for some research for another project, but saw that a factoid of that post-World War II, there was high amounts of nun recruitment, and the Catholic Church, one of the highest points that they've ever seen kind of in history. A lot of it coming from people being displaced by the war, which also meant that it was the most diverse wave of recruitment that they'd ever had, because it was from all over the world, from where people had been displaced. And it was just really interesting reading individual accounts and people's reasonings for kind of joining convents. Like, some it was more faith-based, for others it was for refuge, and it kind of faith didn't factor in as much. It was more about kind of safety and stability. And that fascinated me, is this idea of this moment in time, this very particular moment in history, kind of in the 1950s, that provides a breadth and diversity of characters that you could play in this fascinating and kind of like very, very exciting, highly skilled kind of group of women who are kind of coming together under convents. And I think that it was kind of almost like the perfect moment, kind of as a historical point of being like, why are we telling this story today? Why are we playing as this set of characters? And that kind of gave a particular edge to it. There's also the historical context, those who don't know much about kind of Catholicism and kind of like its position in the 1950s. There is a bit of a satirical edge to kind of the story elements of it, that the 1950s is not an accidental setting, and that's not the only reason. There are some satirical themes running through on the period of Catholic renewal, nuns' positions within that, of where they were being placed in vital roles, of being pushed into schools, hospitals, and other professions by the church as part of this new element of kind of renewing Catholicism in the post-war period. And in many ways, they were being used as a frontline asset by the Catholic Church, and I wanted to kind of put an interesting twist on that and play around with that, as turning them into the quite literal frontline fighters against the apocalypse, punching demons, fighting the horsemen, dealing with rogue angels, and putting down creepy cults, and all of the baggage, the pressure, the nuance that comes with being used as a tool, being used as a weapon. I think just provides really interesting ground for storytelling, role play, and kicking ass in the name of saving the world. So yeah. So in terms of like inspirations, like from my life, from the kind of history, from research, like that is one of the main things. And now we're going to all pause for a brief auto break, because I can see his tail wandering around the back of the stream. And you've heard me, haven't you? Do you want to come here? No? Okay. If anyone chats, he's Otto doing something bad behind me, please tell me, because I'll forget. So in terms of like where else are we kind of pulling from, is kind of like what other stories are there, like kind of what is setting the tone, because and we'll get onto the visual style in a moment, but I settled very early on with this kind of turn of nun noir. I really like this idea of hard-boiled, grizzled nuns kind of fighting against evil, and kind of being worn down by it and becoming more world weary because of it. So noir films were a massive influence, but almost taking the where normally a nun character, kind of in an old school film noir, would have been like a femme fatale character, which is something I desperately want to avoid, and kind of wanted to put them actually more in the, it's nuns, but it's the grizzled detective. It's the hard boiled gumshoe trying to figure out where these cults are, and save the world and stop demons crossing over, or the horsemen kind of ending the world. It's if Humphrey Bogart was a nun, which sounds mad now I say it, but that's something I wanted them to be in that position with that level of agency. I think rather than an antagonistic plot point. I think it's kind of putting them in the protagonist's shoes, and kind of focusing on that detective angle, as well as the kind of more kind of hard-nosed kind of combat angle is also like a big element. Speaking of hard-boiled, a nice kind of thing from noir into neo-noir is this sense of kind of balletic, mad gunplay, and kind of nuns being badass. I mean, there is definitely within the kind of Parable Games offices, we are referencing Hot Fuzz a lot, with the priest going F off grasshopper, is a big moment. But actually, one of the biggest influences for me is John Woo's Hard Boiled. The idea of people leaping around, firing shotguns in slow motion, shooting off pistols, while saying a little prayer is. It pretty much epitomizes how I imagine the kind of combat and more action-heavy side of this. So it's hard-boiled in both of the words. It's hard-boiled in noir, it's hard-boiled in John Woo. So if that sounds like a combo that you can really get behind, then absolutely, like, this is the game for you. Hello. Just going to... Come get your toy. Got there. Go on. Little rebel, little demon. They're distracting me once again. So yeah, in terms of other stories as well, which kind of is a nice lead into our visual style. There he is playing with his toy. Is comics. Comic books have been like a massive influence for me, as well as kind of all the other members of the team. If you're kind of familiar with other work with Shiver of that kind of classic horror comics. The work of like Mike Mignola and Francisco Francavilla, like they are all built into the DNA of kind of like Ben's artwork for this, as well as Shiver, and they were kind of some touchstones. But with this, we have definitely lent more towards the kind of Frank Miller Sin City kind of vibes, but also like some other areas in terms of our actual kind of like visual reference point. And one of the things a little exclusive that I'd like to share with all of you is our Pinterest board. So this is a private Pinterest board that we obviously use, but I think it's a good way to actually show you some of our points of inspiration. A lot of this, there are many photos of just characterful moments with nuns that I think were very much confirming kind of how I was feeling about kind of my encounters with nuns, and kind of how the perception of them I think is very varied, like in terms of your encounters with them and kind of in real life. But in terms of this, you're kind of seeing like a lot of kind of high shadow stuff. But as we're kind of getting down kind of here, we are starting to kind of see this more high contrast style. Some of the kind of more noirish work, kind of on the Batman, it definitely has featured in there as well. Sorry, the dog is just attacking my face in the background off camera. But yeah, just having a kind of little scroll down, trying to find some particular examples. Where is a Sin City reference? Here we are. So Sin City. So Marv from Sin City. Let's start there. So I think anyone kind of who is a big comic fan kind of knows the vibe that we're going for. When you've kind of seen Ben's artwork for Sisterhood, it's kind of one of my favorite kind of art styles that's kind of emerged out of the kind of more modern wave of comics. and I think it's a fascinating one to play with, kind of with light and shadow. There is an element as well of like kind of using this like singular block color element that we've been exploring too. That does come from Sin City, but it also comes from, and this may be a blast back to the past for some people, from old comic book annuals. So old comic book annuals had, so like say for example one in the UK like Battle, for example, like a wartime kind of comic. There are certain stories and certain things in terms of how they were printed where you would use black and white inking and then a singular color pass like blue or green or red, and that would be your one color. And that was something that I found to be very striking, something that we could like explore massively. Frustratingly, I do not have one kind of on here, but there's this element here. So like this Nosferatu one, for example, very much kind of captures that. So yes, so we're looking at deep shadows, exaggerated characters, and those singular, interesting splashes of colour. Who I want to talk about next, though, is Mr. John Constantine himself. Otto, for God's sake, give me 2 seconds. Apologies, everybody. He has just decided to crawl under a sofa and find some things to chew on that he shouldn't be chewing on. So I've just got him here now. So yeah, so John Constantine, or the Hellblazer comics, I think as some people probably more know them by as kind of comic book fans, was a massive point of influence. He is both noir detective and ultimate demon puncher. And I think was again like taking that position of like kind of the kind of chain of influence as we're looking at like that Humphrey Bogart noir style detective. If the nuns could be Humphrey Bogart, then imagining a team of kind of nuns being a different kind of version of smoking, hard drinking John Constantine was definitely a big point of reference for us for when designing Sisterhood and thinking about the styles of stories and characters that we wanted to display. So yeah, no, and I know this may be one that will divide purists kind of quite heavily, is the Keanu Reeves Constantine film. It's got its differences from the comic for sure. He is definitely not the typical Liverpudlian man and kind of like rascal that you find in the comics. But there is some the one bit I say they do very much get right in that film is the aggressive punching of demons. It just, the action bent that they kind of have there works so well. So I feel like there is room for a beautiful fusion of both John Constantine, Hellblazer kind of comic fame, and also the cinematic interpretations of him as well. So yeah, so in terms of character as well as visual style, Constantine is one who has definitely been a major influence. Here we are. So this is for anyone not au fait. This is the classic Hellblazer comics from Vertigo. Like if you've not read them, give them a try. They are absolutely spectacular. I think they are definitely something that you would really enjoy. Another one in terms of, as some of you are probably aware, if you've been reading some of our updates, we have the Four Horsemen being some of our major enemies. And I just wanted to spotlight this. There's some elements of the art style that we picked out, like the strong kind of colour theming, but obviously they go a little bit harder. Is East of West, written by Jonathan Hickman. It's a Image comic book series, a kind of a sci-fi take on the Four Horsemen. And is a absolutely wild time. If you're a comic book fan and you've not read East of West, give it a whirl. You will not be disappointed. Very much leans more on the Wild West side than it does the noir side compared to us, but definitely was a major influence for me in terms of writing, but also kind of style and thinking about the Horsemen. So yeah, if you're looking for some pre-reading before Sisterhood turns up and comes around, then this will definitely potentially be for you. So that's kind of an overview of inspirations on kind of our stories, kind of where stuff has kind of come from. We'll be talking more about gameplay kind of in a moment. I'll talk about gameplay inspirations as we start going through the quick start. So we have this lovely physical quick start, but I'm not going to be lifting this up and showing it to you like this. I'm going to be showing you our pre-rendered digital version of it in just a moment. So sorry, demon break number 5. So any of you who have dogs out there who have experienced teething terrors where they will find anything, literally everything, to chew on. Right, come here. Stop. Right, up you get. So I don't even know what half of this is, Otto. You mad creature. Stay there. Look. Oh, he's your little guy. Go get him. There we are. Hopefully he will instantly chuck that on the floor and disappear. But yes. So yeah, in terms of... I've completely lost your apologies, everyone. This dog is chaos, a true demon. Let me know in the comments and the chat if you want us to build a demon that is called Otto, and I will make a specific hellhound based off of this creature. If people think that would be something that would be fun. But yes, anyway, quick start. This is what we're here to focus on and have a kind of quick chat through. Overview of the rules, how Sisterhood works. Obviously, this is something that you can get your hands on if you sign up and you follow the Backerkit. You will get a digital version with all the printable assets for your beautiful, lovely character sheets, such as these, as well as our funky, unique battle map system, the Way of the Cross, as well. These ones printed for use of demoing whilst we've been in Gamma over in America, which has been very, very fun. But we're all still slightly jet lagged. So let's jump in to the quick start. So let's do this one. Okay, so see some beautiful cover art from Ben. So in terms of where this started, this started with an original sketch from me of being trying to, and it's how we start a lot of our projects actually, is doing kind of an initial sketch that gives us a overview of what's the style of the thing that we're making, what kind of one image, what hero image can actually epitomize what we're doing, and kind of what we want to say with the project. And Smoky Nun with big old cross knuckle dusters with Marv style bandages and stitches was definitely a part of it. See, you're not always a demon. Okay, calm down. So yeah, it's Ben's done spectacular work on this cover. It looks amazing. I'm sure if you've seen the other ones, they've been fantastic. Why? No, bad. Just to clarify, he's not hurting me. He's just very playful teething. Stop, sir. Oh my God, sorry. Oh, this dog. I've seen a lot of streamers where they stream and they've got cats running around and they're never as destructive as this. Dogs are a different beast. Leave my camera alone. But yes, so in terms of cover work, this is great. The other covers as well for the Horsemen, for the Angels, also extremely good. I mean, if you're vibing with the cover, there is more of this obviously to see and on the way. So yeah, just a little kind of highlight of the team. So for me as creative lead, kind of on this project, that's me, Charlie. It's being written by myself and Adam Holloway. So some of you will be very familiar with Adam's work if you're Shiver fans. Adam wrote all of the story content for the big slasher and blockbuster books. He also wrote the Shiver slasher starter set Return to Camp Blood, as well as various Patreon entries and more Shiver books that are on the way. So if you're liking Adam's style, he's working with me on kind of writing the book, working on the lore, writing the stories. So the story for this quick start was written by Adam as well. In terms of editing development, we have my brother and business partner, Barney, has been kind of jumping in and doing some of the edits and helping testing, along with our new team member, Matthew Vaughan. We've done some robust play testing. They've helped me get over some more mechanical hurdles. This game is still extremely accessible and very easy to play. From a mechanical standpoint for me, from design, it is definitely I don't want to put anyone off with this. It's definitely the crunchiest thing I've designed in terms of figuring out kind of maths and placement. But a lot of that is happening on the back end, not on the front end. So you don't need to worry. I, on the other hand, do. And then, of course, our wonderful in-house artist, Ben, working away and kind of absolutely nailing the style for Sisterhood and adapting to it like an absolute champ. And then me losing my mind in design as usual. So we have our kind of contents just here. In terms of like kind of going through our introduction, is very much what we've just discussed. It's post World War II. We're entering the 1950s. We have this influx of nuns, but areas on both sides, both in heaven and in hell, are a bit pissed that the apocalypse hasn't happened. They thought World War II, this is the pits. It's literally the lowest that humanity has ever been. In terms of the terrible things that have happened, this has to be the end point, right? And when it doesn't happen, both sides on heaven and hell, the horsemen, the shitheel son of the devil, Sariel, and kind of various other factions, all go, actually, no, we want the apocalypse to happen, we're going to do it ourselves. And they go into full rebellion from both sides of the coin and start trying to bring about the end of days. Without permission from their uppers, from God or the devil. So that is the setup for Sisterhood. That's our kind of intro. You're laying against massively powerful forces that are struggling to put a physical foothold on Earth. So they do that through cults, or when they are summoned and manage to physically get there, they are there for a short time, not a long time, and wreak devastation if they ever manage to break through. But the idea of the apocalypse is that if the apocalypse is triggered kind of in any way, that they will be able to walk there permanently and wreak havoc. So the Sisterhood is the group that has been created by the church in order to kind of fight back against these demonic forces. This is probably one of my favourite pieces of art that we have so far. Choking out occultists with holy tattoos is just absolutely brilliant. And we're on dog break number 7 because I can hear you destroying a piece. He's destroying a piece of cardboard. I'm just going to let him destroy that piece of cardboard for my sanity. So yes, so these are your sisters. So in terms of kind of how our dice system works, just a really quick overview. It's fundamentally a dice assignment system. So you assign various dice sizes to different attributes that you have. So we have 4 main attributes when it comes to building out your sisters. So first you've got your faith. So that's your spiritual power, resolve in the face of evil. It's also what you use to use like ancient relics, holy swords, anything that kind of has any element of divine energy and spirits kind of to it, that relies on faith. It's fundamentally a bit like kind of a magic stat, if you're kind of coming across from a fantasy RPG, but has a lot more kind of faith elements, obviously kind of roaming around through it. Then we have cunning. This is kind of a mixture of your kind of intelligence and sneakiness. It's logical thought, deduction, investigation, decoding ciphers, stealth, ranged combat. It's all about kind of sneaking around and outthinking your enemies. Is very much cunning. Sir. Oh. So Otto keeps finding pieces from our don't play construction for the boxes, don't you? So we'll just give him a little bit of a cuddle to calm him down. So our third attribute is empathy, something I'm showing to Otto right now to try and keep him calm. It's emotional connections, ability to charm, coerce, deceive, lie. They're the kind that it's the basically you're the social sister. You're the one who is going to be using your wit and your guile to fool people that you are that unassuming nun. a lot of the time, and that's where kind of empathy kind of comes in, as well as figuring out when people are lying to you or hiding to you, because as you'll kind of find in Sisterhood, a lot of the investigative side of this is going to be figuring out who is working for the cults, where are they based, where are they hiding, as they kind of nestle inside communities, like a leech, leeching onto kind of a community and using that as a base to draw power from, to try and summon demons, bring forth kind of powers of the horsemen, and maybe even the horsemen themselves, as well as those rebel angels as well. Finally, we've got fortitude, so that's like your physical strength, your resilience to damage. So if your sister is wielding a big old battle axe, then that is going to be the attribute for you. So there are two ways that checks work within this. Is that we kind of refer to them as a DC, so it's a dice challenge. So first off, we have a flat check. So a flat check is where we basically say a number. I'm just saying you want to kick down, there's a cult nestled in an old church, and you want to kick down a rotten door. It's pretty flimsy, it's not too difficult, it's maybe hovering between a trivial or a normal check. So I'd say that was DC 5. That would probably be a fortitude check. It's a big physical action, so I would then look at my fortitude dice, I'd roll it and see if I beat it. If it's something that would give you more resistance, say it was like I wanted to kick a cultist off of a beam or a cliff, they're going to resist me. So that is then going to be what you'll find in combat most of the time is opposed rolls, where you'll be rolling against our version of the Game Master, which is called the Mother Superior. We'll roll against the sister player and see who gets higher. So for example, say we're kind of fighting on some cliffs above the sea. I want to boot a like low-level cultist kind of onto the rocks below. I'm pretty hefty. I've got a D8. This cultist only has a D4. We roll off against one another, and whoever gets the highest number wins. So it's really simple. It's either a set flat number or it's rolling against and who gets higher. And there are certain elements within the game where you can boost those numbers. You can add an extra dice. One of our funnest mechanics, which we'll get to kind of in a moment, is helping a sister out, which is one of the reasons we've made our D4s look like nuns, because when you help a sister out, you throw a D4 in there and it looks like a little nun. So if the nun lands upright, it's a 4, and you add 4 onto the dice kind of result for what you're trying to do. So really super simple, super quick, but gives you a lot of depth in terms of like how your characters can progress, and how they can grow, and how you can build them as well, with those kind of 4 attributes and how we do checks. So something you'll notice that is absent currently from the Quickstart is progression, obviously, but we will be doing as you can see from the character sheets, an experience and leveling system that will be happening. So there will be extra things that your sisters will get. Dice increases is one of them, new prayers, extra abilities to kind of use in combat, and various different things that are going to make your sisters become increasingly kick-ass when they're fighting against demons and angels and all other manners of horrors to try and stop the apocalypse. So so here we are about kind of like helping sister out. We have a very simple kind of approach to the idea of like advantage and disadvantage. We refer to it as blessings and curses. So if you're blessed and you're cursed, it's something that can stack. It's really simple. Say I've got a D6 for my fortitude. I'm blessed, so maybe a sister is kind of helping me out, or I've said a little prayer that has kind of caused me to be blessed when it comes to my fortitude. I would then go from a D6 to a D8. So in the full polyhedral set, if you're blessed, you move up 1 step. If you're cursed, you move down 1 step, as our kind of representation of disadvantage or finding stuff kind of more difficult. And that is something that can stack as well. So you can, have a sister says a prayer for you. Hello. A sister says a prayer for you, and you go up 1 kind of dice step. Then you can maybe use an action. So one of the examples I really like to use is if you've got a sniper rifle, it can have an ability called aim, which then gives you an extra kind of stack of blessed. So you go from a D6 to a D8 to a D10, and that can just keep going kind of all the way up to kind of being capped at a D20. So in terms of like how you manage your blessings and your curses, It can make you very powerful or cause you some serious problems on the battlefield. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Sir, I think you need to go down because you are getting leery. There we go. Chill out, you little demon. Good boy. There we go. So, speaking of combat and kind of taking damage or getting into trouble, there are two ways that you can potentially die in Sisterhood. So you don't have one typical like health bar that represents you physically. We have body, which is determined by how much fortitude you have, and we have spirit as well, which determines how much of your kind of spiritual essence you have left. Either way, if you go to 0 at 1, you're going to be facing death. So the most elusive of the four horsemen, but also the most prolific. You'll start rolling off against death, trying to survive. So that is a kind of great and scary moment. And everyone you may succeed and win against death, but death starts at the d6 and their dice stepping goes up with every moment that you're facing death, and hopefully, so it makes it pretty necessary for someone to rush in, try and help you, try and get you up, because rolling against death is no joke. It's not fun, and there's a big likelihood that you're going to die. So how can we fight against death? Kind of what special things do we have? Each sisters have access to divinity, so we have 3 divinity points that you start with. This is again another thing through progression you potentially can earn more of. Divinity allows you to kind of convey blessings. It's used in certain skills. You can also decide to. What are you doing? Wait, leave it. Sorry, 2 seconds. No, choose this. Go on. You can also use it to collectively roll a d20 together and replace a main die, but you will have to spend divinity as a group. And there are certain relics and unique weapons that will become supercharged when you spend divinity on triggering attacks. So, for example, if you get Joan of Arc's sword, as an example, you can charge it up using your divinity, set it on fire, slice down some demons with some holy white fire. He's just attacking a blanket. So divinity is something that's very powerful. It's something that you need to recover, so you can do that through resting, through prayer, or through your past experience, which is part of your kind of sister's character build. So in terms of skills, you will start with kind of like a certain amount, and will kind of acquire more in the full game through progression, and these become really, really important for roleplay, but also for kind of doing combat on the cross. So, speaking of the cross, this is our awesome, funky combat system, which I've kind of shown a little bit kind of over here. So, the whole reasoning for abandoning the grid system, because it was something we kind of discussed and were thinking about, and I really wanted to try something new, and this is where kind of some of these other inspirations have kind of come in. So, stuff like Warhammer Underworlds, kind of with its hex-based system and a very limited map with blockades there. Even the Arkham Horror card game, in terms of how you lay cards out in a different way, kind of provided some element of influence. But what I kind of was really focusing on was, it was less about the actual physical space itself. It was more, how do people with specific training respond and think when they go into an environment? How do they see the battlefield? Otto, leave it. Leave it. Oh my god. Right, grab this. Go get it. Sorry about that. Can't have this dog eating pencils. Right, come here. Da-da-da-da. Demon dog. Hello. See if he will settle down on me. Stop nibbling me. No. Good boy. There we go. So yeah, it's more about how the sisters actually view the battlefield in their minds. So the idea is that once you join the Sisterhood, these nuns are trained in a very specific form of combat, a kind of a unique way to start thinking about to start thinking about any battle that they come across. So this could be in the ruins of an old church, it could be in an old trench system, a kind of Parisian town. Stop. Why are you doing this, demon? But it means that you can apply this battle map to kind of any combat encounter that you have. So it means that your setup time pretty much comes down to 0. You just do your 2 A4 prints, push them together, and position your tokens for your sisters on there, whatever you want to use. And then every story will have instructions on where you need to position your enemies. And from that, it takes 2 seconds. It's all about kind of where you're kind of getting initially placed. Hello. And you're good to go. Thank you for that, Otto, for your input. So yeah, in terms of that, it's designed to be quick, fast, and easy to run. And basically means that you're not counting and measuring like endless amounts of grid squares, or having to use additional things such as like widgets and stuff to figure out how big your like fireball is or anything like that. It's all spatial. It's all about shunting and moving and kind of manipulating the very set areas that you have on the battlefield to your advantage. Because one of the other things that I wanted to represent with this is like kind of, as you can kind of see, you've got the 2 sides with the cross and the pentagram side. As we were being after kind of World War II, is this idea of a firefight, where you kind of have this very territorial 2-sided way to thinking about and looking at combat, where one side is very dangerous for you. So the pentagram is somewhere that's very dangerous for the sisters. As soon as they step in, they're automatically at 1 level of cursed, whilst fighting from the cross is the area that they're strongest. It's the area where they're safe. So conceptually, that's how they're thinking about the battlefield. And eventually, as you roleplay as them, you will as well. So it's very, very simple in terms of how you move around. Kind of the action economy is you have 3 actions. We won't delve into the combat in too much depth right now because I'm very excited about it. It's very fun, very fast and punchy, but I will get into the weeds and we will talk for another whole hour. But if you're feeling some fatigue with using a grid system, you want something that's fast but spatial, something where you can get out tokens, you can get out minis, you can make your own nuns, make your own cultists and demons and kind of have them represented physically kind of on the table in front of you, but don't have to do the hour of setup time building something on kind of your VTT of choice, or kind of, you know, painting up like full scenery and terrain, then this can be a really good answer for you for a kind of high action, hard boiled, diving around with shotguns with a bit of nun theming kind of answer to combat, which we're sure can probably be hacked into other settings as well if you try hard enough. But yes, that's what we're really excited for, is that it gives you that tactical nuance of almost like playing a kind of firefight style game of chess against your enemies, but is fast paced, punchy, and when you get your sister's abilities to line up, it feels extremely good. So one of the things I will say we have noticed from playtesting this, and it would be something we'd love to hear kind of more feedback on, is from the design of this compared to when you have a grid system. A lot of people pre-plan their turns and they kind of roll it out and they'd be like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, that's my action. And it's very closed off from the rest of the group. Sisterhood and the way the battle map is designed, the way of the cross is designed, is intentionally so you synergize off of other people's abilities and other people's skills. So there is a constant kind of flow of talking back and forth around the table, of being like, well, okay, if I move into, they're about to like summon a demon, so if I move my brawler nun into ritual, I use my ability to shunt them towards you, then basically you fastball special them with a shotgun and we might be able to take them out in 1 turn before they do something bad. So in terms of like, that's kind of one of the big appeals of Sisterhood, is that it gets your players around the table talking, interacting and collaborating more in combat because of the nature of the combat system and the skills themselves. So yeah. So please give it a read. We'll probably do another stream, I imagine, where we're going to be doing streams of playing the game, but also if it's something that people would like, I will do a deep dive kind of into the combat system, explain some more of like the design ethos behind it, where more of the influences came from, and we can kind of explore that a bit more together. So let's have a quick chat about prayers, because you're a nun. You're gonna need to pray. So prayer is a big way of like restoring your divinity points. You can do it in combat, but it makes you very, very vulnerable. But there will be also additional, as you probably see from the character sheets, some special prayers that you can get access to that are powerful abilities that take up a lot of action, a lot of divinity points in order to trigger. So keep an eye out for those. We're going to have a full Sisterhood prayer book, kind of in the full rules. So you're going to have full access to some even more character customizability when it comes to the full game. Weapons, ranges, really, really simple. If range 0, you're in the same section, you can punch somebody. Range 1, you're basically counting adjacent areas on that map. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Enemy design has been an absolute hoot. I cannot wait to show off more of what we're kind of looking at. There are definitely going to be some community things where we get people to feed in on some enemy designs, so make sure to keep an eye out for that when the Backerkit goes live. But yes, and finally we have our starter adventure, The Lost Convent, where a derelict convent has been invaded by some potentially spooky cultists, and you've been sent there by Sister Federica Alvarez, who is the Watcher of Dark Sites. So basically someone who is keeping eyes on ground that was sanctified that has now fallen. And it's areas that are prime for cult activity and bad stuff happening. So we're big film and TV nerds, Adam and I, so you can already see that we've tried to kind of be a lot more kind of pithy with our adventure writing with this. We want it to be as punchy as the combat and the kind of gameplay is, but we split in kind of things into acts for you to kind of work through kind of really, really quickly. The idea with these stories is we're calling them missions. So basically you can kind of go off, do a mission. Certain missions can kind of interconnect, and you gain kind of experience and level up your nun and take on harder and harder missions, working your way to undoing a major kind of apocalyptic plot, whether that's stopping the kind of horsemen from riding out, a major like angel rebellion that's about to happen, a demonic incursion kind of onto kind of like the earthly plane. All of these can be split across multiple missions. So in terms of like one-shot play, if you just want like a high action, you just want some nuns to kind of get stuck in, shoot some demons, have a big brawl and high action time, you can definitely use Sisterhood for that. But it's also very primed for campaign play as well, and exploring bigger world-ending stakes level stories as well. I don't really want to delve too hard into this story. I want you to play it. I want you to experience it for yourselves and have some fun exploring all the different types of cultists and things that we have on offer, as well as all of our preset character sheets to give you a sense of kind of who the Sisterhood is. We're super duper excited about it. We really kind of want to hear kind of what people are thinking, see if you're doing any kind of playthroughs of the kind of free Quickstart. Let us know, send us photos. We love to see people's kind of home games like massively, as well as just get on the theme. We have a friend, Keith, who has play tested this with us, and doesn't always like kind of go deep into the role play like in previous games that we've done, but with this he got the message. He slipped on his knuckle dusters in the game, chomped on a cigar, was playing 60-year-old nun, and was ready to brawl, ready to fight, punch a demon, knock out its teeth, and save the world. So I think if that kind of pulpy, high action kind of role playing is appealing to you, then this may be something that's right up your alley. So we've stacked this at the end of the quick start, but these are obviously these character sheets as well as the combat maps themselves are all available now. When you kind of sign up to the Backerkit, you get them for free. They're all printer friendly, so you can print everything off and play. If you've got it's anything that can just use to represent your sisters, like little tokens, minis, and a couple of sets of polyhedral dice, you've got everything that you need to play right now and give Sisterhood a go. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to our stream and listening to me ramble and fight a demonic dog for half of the time. But yeah, if you want to know more, please comment on this stream, comment on the page, ask us questions. We're going to be previewing a lot more stuff kind of in the run-up to the launch, launching on March 13th on Backerkit. So please kind of give us a shout out. Also, last little thing, if you would like to get yourselves one of these lovely physical shiny Quickstarts, we have got them printed especially for the convention circuit that is starting up again for us. So we've got 2 that are upcoming relatively soon. We've got Aircon in Harrogate March 14th, and we also have Horror Rock and WrestleFest in Manchester on the 22nd of March to the 23rd. So campaign will already be live, we'll already be kind of rocking and rolling, but if you're wanting to kind of get a physical copy of these, you can find us there. Apologies to any of our non-UK fans, we have only just got back from America. If I could send these out to events over there, I absolutely would, and if I could. So yeah, any kind of questions, anything you want to know about Sisterhood, please let us know. It's been an absolute pleasure doing this and designing this and seeing the response to it so far, and I'm very excited to see where it all goes and kind of what everybody thinks of donning the habit, kind of cocking your shotguns and getting ready to save the world whilst rocking a wimple. So thank you all for tuning in. Otto is occupied. I won't grab him to say goodbye, he'll hate me for it. But have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you for another stream soon, if not for the launch stream. So yeah,